If you stay tonight, I don't trust myself to go easy on you." Lucas's words hung in the air between us, and I couldn't breathe. We were standing in his penthouse, the entire city glowing through the floor-to-ceiling windows behind him, and all I could focus on was the way he was looking at me, like 4 years hadn't passed, like I hadn't walked away without explanation, like every feeling we'd buried was clawing its way back to the surface. His hand was still on my waist from when he guided me inside after the gala. Neither of us had moved. The warmth of his touch was burning through the silk of my dress. I should leave. I should walk out right now. But I'd been running for 4 years. And tonight, standing in front of the only man I'd ever loved, I was so tired of running. "Then don't," I whispered. The charity gala had ended an hour ago. Most guests were gone, champagne glasses abandoned on tables, the orchestra packing up their instruments. I'd been standing on the balcony, trying to pull myself together, when Lucas found me. We hadn't spoken all night. Not really. Just that moment when I first walked in and saw him across the ballroom. The shock in his hazel eyes. The way his entire body went rigid like I'd physically struck him. I'd spent 4 years in New York trying to forget him. 4 years building a career, making partner at my firm, convincing myself I'd made the right choice leaving Seattle. Leaving him. One look, and it all fell apart. "You planning to stand out here all night?" His voice came from behind me, smooth and familiar and dangerous. I turned. He'd loosened his tie, top button undone, and he looked so much like the Lucas I remember that my chest ached. Except there was something different now. Something harder in the set of his jaw. Something that told me these 4 years hadn't been easy for him either. "I was just getting some air," I said. "Right." He stepped closer, and I caught the scent of his cologne. "The same one. After all this time. You want to tell me what you're really doing in Seattle, Amari?" "I told you. Work. Work." He laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You couldn't have sent someone else? Your firm has 100 lawyers. My boss asked me to come. And you just happened to end up at a gala you knew I'd be at." I met his eyes. I didn't know. Something flickered across his face. He wanted to believe me. I could see it. But there was too much history, too much pain between us. "Why'd you leave?" The question came out quiet, almost broken. "4 years, Amari. You disappeared. Blocked my number. Wouldn't return my emails. I thought we were best friends." My throat tightened. "We were? Then why?" I couldn't answer that. Not here. Not yet. Because the truth was too messy. Too raw. The truth was that I'd been in love with him for years, and watching him date other people was killing me. And that night, that one night, when we'd almost crossed the line, when his hand had been in my hair and his mouth had been inches from mine, I'd panicked, pulled away, ruined everything. 2 weeks later, he started seeing Jessica, beautiful blonde Jessica, who worked in marketing, and laughed at all his jokes. I couldn't do it. Couldn't watch him fall for someone else. So I ran. "It's complicated," I said finally. "That's not an answer. It's the only one I have right now." He stared at me for a long moment, jaw tight, and I thought he might press, demand the truth. But instead, he just shook his head. "Come on," he said. "I'll drive you to your hotel." "Lucas, you don't have to. I'm not letting you get in an Uber at midnight in that dress." I glanced down at the emerald green silk. It wasn't even that revealing, but the way he said it made heat crawl up my neck. His car was a sleek black Tesla, because of course it was. Lucas had always loved tech, always been an early adopter. It was part of why his startup took off the way it did. We drove in silence for the first few minutes, the city lights blurring past the windows. I kept my hands folded in my lap, hyper-aware of how close he was in confined space. "You look good," he said suddenly. "New York's been good to you." "Thanks. You too. I mean, the whole Millionaire thing suits you." He huffed a laugh. "Yeah, well, had to do something to fill the time." The words hit harder than he probably meant them to. I looked at him, but he kept his eyes on the road. "Lucas." "Forget it." He took a turn I didn't recognize. "I'm not taking you to your hotel. My pulse spiked. What? Relax. I'm taking you to my place. We're going to talk. Actually talk. You owe me that much. I should have argued. Should have insisted he turn around. But part of me, the part that had missed him every single day for 4 years, didn't want to. His penthouse was everything I'd expected. Modern, expensive, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the entire city. Minimalist furniture, high-end everything. It screamed success. It also screamed lonely. Drink? He asked, heading to the bar. Sure. He poured us both whiskey, neat, and handed me a glass. Our fingers brushed, and I pulled back too fast. He noticed. Of course he noticed. So, he said, leaning against the window. Talk. What do you want me to say? The truth. Why'd you really leave? I took a sip of whiskey, letting it burn down my throat. Buying time. I got a job offer. It was a good opportunity. Bullshit. Excuse me? You heard me. He set his glass down, eyes locked on mine. You had opportunities here. Your firm offered you a promotion. You turned it down. 2 weeks later, you were gone. How do you know about the promotion? Because I know you, Amari. I know you better than anyone. So stop lying and tell me what really happened. The frustration in his voice cracked something inside me. I set my own glass down, my hand shaking. You started dating Jessica, I said quietly. He blinked. What? 2 weeks after that night at your apartment, when we almost... I couldn't finish the sentence. You started dating her. Understanding dawned slowly across his face. Then confusion. Then something that looked like anger. Are you serious right now? His voice was low, dangerous. You left because I started seeing someone? It wasn't just that. Then what was it? I turned away, wrapping my arms around myself. I could watch you fall in love with someone else. The silence that followed was deafening. I could hear my own heartbeat, feel the blood rushing in my ears. Amari. His voice was right behind me now. Close. Look at me. I turned slowly. He was inches away, close enough that I had to tilt my head back to meet his eyes. I dated Jessica for 3 months, he said. 3 months trying to convince myself I could feel for her what I felt for you. It didn't work. Nothing worked. You were all I could think about. My breath caught. Lucas. And then you were just gone. No explanation. No goodbye. Do you have any idea what that did to me? I am sorry. Sorry? He laughed, bitter and sharp. For years, Amari. For years I've been trying to figure out what I did wrong. Trying to move on. And now you're standing here telling me you left because you had feelings for me? I didn't know what else to do. You could have told me. His hand came up to my face. Fingers gentle against my jaw. You could have just told me. I closed my eyes, leaning into his touch without meaning to. I was scared. Of what? Ruining us. Losing you completely. So instead, you just left. I know it was stupid. I opened my eyes, meeting his gaze. I panicked. He stared at me for a long moment, his thumb tracing my cheekbone. The tenderness of the gesture nearly broke me. If you stay tonight, he said softly, I don't trust myself to go easy on you. Everything in me went still. What? For years, Amari. For years of missing you, wanting you. If you stay, I'm not letting you walk away again. Not without a fight. My heart was pounding so hard I could barely breathe. Then don't, I whispered. The space between us disappeared. Lucas's mouth found mine, and every thought I'd had about being careful, about protecting myself, just evaporated. His hand slid into my hair, tilted my head back, and I grabbed onto his shirt because my legs weren't working right anymore. For years of wondering what this would feel like, and it was so much better than I'd imagined. He kissed me like he was trying to make up for lost time. Deep and slow and absolutely devastating. His other hand found my waist, pulling me flush against him, and I made a sound I didn't recognize. He pulled back just enough to look at me, his breathing uneven. Tell me to stop. No. Amari. His voice was rough, strained. If we do this, everything changes. It already changed. For years ago, we just didn't admit it. Something in his expression shifted. Relief, maybe, or surrender. He kissed me again, softer this time, and it somehow felt more intense than before. I missed you, he murmured against my lips. Every single day. I missed you too. He rested his forehead against mine, eyes closed. Stay. Not just tonight. Stay in Seattle. The request knocked the air out of my lungs. Lucas, I can't just... Why not? What's in New York that you can't have here? My job, my life. I built something there. Build something here. He pulled back to look at me. Build something with me. It was too much. Too fast. We'd barely talked, barely figured out what this even was between us. And he was already asking me to upend my entire life. But looking into his eyes, seeing the raw hope there, part of me wanted to say yes. I leave Sunday, I said quietly. Let's just see what happens before then. Okay. He didn't like that answer. I could see it in the tightness around his mouth. But he nodded. Okay, but I'm not wasting the time we have. What does that mean? It means tomorrow you're spending the day with me. No work. No excuses. I have depositions. Reschedule them. Lucas. Amari. He mimicked my tone, and despite everything, I almost smiled. You disappeared for 4 years. Give me 2 days. That's all I'm asking. 2 days. 48 hours with a man I'd spent 4 years trying to forget. It was a terrible idea. Fine, I said. 2 days. The smile that spread across his face was worth it. We didn't sleep together that night. We came close, standing in his living room with the city lights washing over us. But I stopped it before it went too far. Not because I didn't want to. God, I wanted to. But 4 years apart meant we had a lot to figure out. And I didn't want to complicate things more than they already were. Lucas drove me back to my hotel around 3 in the morning. Before I got out of the car, he caught my hand. Tomorrow, he said. I'll pick you up at 10. Where are we going? You'll see. I should have pushed for details, but I was too tired, too emotionally wrung out. I just nodded and went inside. My hotel room felt cold and empty after the warmth of his penthouse. I stripped off the emerald dress, washed my face, and fell into bed, but sleep didn't come easy. My mind kept replaying the night. His hands in my hair, his voice saying he'd miss me. The way he'd looked at me like I was the only person in the world. I'd spent 4 years convinced I'd made the right choice leaving. Now, I wasn't so sure. The next morning, I woke up to 3 missed calls from my boss and a text from Lucas. Wear something comfortable and bring a jacket. I stare at the message, my stomach doing something complicated. This was really happening. I was really doing this. I called my boss back first. Told him I needed to push the depositions to Monday. He wasn't thrilled, but he didn't argue. One of the perks of being a senior partner is people didn't question you too much. Lucas showed up at exactly 10, looking unfairly good in jeans and a navy Henley. I'd gone with leggings and an oversized sweater, my natural curls pulled into a loose bun. Morning, he said when I slid into the passenger seat. Morning. You can tell me where we're going? Nope. We drove north, out of city, into areas I didn't recognize. Trees got thicker, buildings got sparser. He had music playing low, some indie band I didn't know, and he kept glancing at me like he was checking to make sure I was real. What? I asked finally. Nothing. Just this is surreal. What is? You. Here. With me. He reached over and laced his fingers through mine. I kept thinking you'd disappear again. My chest tightened. I'm not going anywhere. Not for 2 days, at least. Right. 2 days. His jaw tensed. Then you go back to New York, and we do what? Pretend this didn't happen? I don't know, Lucas. I haven't figured that part out yet. Well, you better figure out fast. Because I meant what I said last night. I'm not letting you walk away without a fight. We pulled off the highway onto a smaller road that wound through dense forest. Eventually, we turned onto a gravel driveway that led to a cabin. Not a fancy vacation rental. An actual cabin. with exterior, stone chimney, wraparound porch. What is this place? I asked. Mine. Well, technically it was my grandfather's. He left it to me when he passed. Lucas cut the engine. I come here when I need to think. Figured it was a good place for us to actually talk. No distractions. No distractions meant no escape routes either. I followed him inside, my pulse picking up. The interior was cozy. Lived in. There were photos on the mantel. Books stacked on the coffee table. A worn leather couch facing a stone fireplace. It felt more like Lucas than his sleek penthouse did. "I'll make coffee," he said, heading to the kitchen. I wandered around the living room, looking at the photos. Most were old, black and white shots of people I didn't recognize. But there was one that made me stop. It was us, from years ago, before everything got complicated. We were at some party, his arm around my shoulders, both of us laughing at something off camera. I forgot that was there. Lucas said from behind me. I turned. He was holding 2 mugs, watching me with an unreadable expression. "You kept it," I said. "I kept a lot of things." He handed me a mug. Couldn't bring myself to get rid of them. We sat on the couch, close but not touching, and for a while, we just drank our coffee in silence. It wasn't uncomfortable, just heavy with everything we weren't saying. "I should have told you," I said finally, before I left. I should have been honest about how I felt. "Yeah, you should have. I am sorry." He set his mug down, turning to face me fully. "I need you to understand something. Amari, when you left, it broke me. I know that sounds dramatic, but it's true. You were my best friend, the person I told everything to. And then you were just gone." Guilt twisted in my stomach. "I know. I'm so sorry, Lucas. I just didn't know how to stay and watch you be with someone else." I was never with anyone else. Not really. His hand found mine. It was always you. Even when I was trying to move on, it was you. Tears burned behind my eyes. "Then why didn't you fight for me? When I left, you just let me go. Because you made it clear you didn't want me to." His voice cracked. "You blocked me everywhere. Amari. What was I supposed to do? Show up in New York and beg?" "Maybe." He laughed, sharp and bitter. "Would it have worked?" I thought about it. Honestly thought about it. If he'd shown up at my apartment in New York 6 months after I left, would I have let him in? I don't know. I admitted, probably not. I was too stubborn. "You still are." "So are you." We stared at each other, and despite the heaviness of the conversation, I felt the corner of my mouth twitch. "This is ridiculous," I said. "What is?" "We're both idiots." He smiled then, real and warm. "Yeah, we really are." He leaned in and kissed me, soft and slow, like we had all the time in the world. And for the next 2 days, maybe we did, we spent the rest of that day at the cabin, and it felt like stepping back in time. Back to when things were simple between us. When we were just Lucas and Amari, best friends who could talk for hours about nothing and everything. Except now there was this new layer, this awareness. Every time his hand brushed mine, every time he smiled at me, I felt it like electricity. We made lunch together. Well, Lucas made lunch while I sat on the counter and kept him company, which had always been our dynamic. He'd cook, I'd taste test and offer completely unhelpful commentary. "This needs something," I said, trying the pasta sauce he'd made from scratch. "It needs you to stop backseat cooking." "I'm not backseat cooking. I'm quality control." He grabbed the spoon from my hand, tasted it himself, then added more garlic. "Better?" I tried it again. "Perfect." "I know." He kissed my forehead, casual and easy, like he'd been doing it for years. Maybe in another timeline, he had been. After lunch, we ended up on the couch again. I'd stolen one of his hoodies because the cabin was cold, and I was curled into his side while he scrolled through movie options. "Not a horror movie," I said. "You used to love horror movies. I used to have you there to hide behind during the scary parts." He glanced down at me, something soft in his expression. "I'm here now." "I know." I settled deeper against him. Still no horror movies. We ended up watching some action movie, neither of us really paid attention to. Halfway through, his phone rang. He ignored it. "You can answer that," I said. "It's just work." "Lucas." "Amari." He mimicked my tone again, and I poked his ribs. "Ow. Okay, fine." He checked the screen, frowned, and silenced it. "It's not important. If it's work, it might be. Nothing's more important than this." He pulled me closer. "Than you being here." My chest did that complicated thing again. The thing where it felt too full and too empty at the same time. "What are we doing?" I asked quietly. "What do you mean?" "I mean, what is this? What happens after Sunday?" He was quiet for a moment, his hand running absently through my curls. "What do you want to happen?" "I don't know. That's why I'm asking." "Well, I know what I want." He shifted so he could look at me properly. "I want you to stay. Move back to Seattle. Give us a real shot." "Lucas, it's not that simple." "Why not?" "Because I have a whole life in New York. A career I worked really hard for. I can't just walk away from that." "I'm not asking you to walk away from your career. I'm asking you to bring it here. You're a lawyer. You can practice anywhere." "It doesn't work like that." "Then make it work." There was frustration creeping into his voice now. "You found a way to leave 4 years ago. Find a way to stay now." I sat up, putting space between us. "That's not fair." "What's not fair is you waltzing back into my life for 2 days and then disappearing again." "I didn't waltz anywhere. I'm here for work." "Right. Work." He stood up, running a hand through his hair. "Always work. Always some excuse." "It's not an excuse, Lucas. It's my life." "And what am I?" He turned to face me, and the raw emotion in his eyes nearly broke me. "What are we?" "I don't know yet. We just reconnected yesterday." "We reconnected 4 years ago. Amari, in my apartment, when I almost kissed you. We could have figured this out then, but you ran. And now you're getting ready to run again." "I'm not running." "Then stay." The word hung between us, heavy and impossible. I wanted to say yes. God, I wanted to. But fear wrapped around my throat and wouldn't let the words out. "I need time," I said finally. "How much time?" "I don't know." He laughed, but there was no humor in it. "That's not good enough. It's all I can give you right now." We stared at each other, the distance between us feeling like miles instead of feet. Finally, he grabbed his keys off the coffee table. "I'm going for a drive," he said. "I'll be back in an hour." He left before I could respond. The door closed behind him, and I heard his car start up, gravel crunching as he drove away. I sat there on his couch, in his hoodie, in his grandfather's cabin, and let myself cry. Because he was right. I was getting ready to run again. It's what I did when things got hard, when feelings got too big. I ran, but I was so tired of running. My phone buzzed. A text from my best friend back in New York, Maya. She was the only person who knew the whole story about Lucas. "How Seattle? Did you see him?" I stared at the message for a long time before responding. "Yeah, I saw him. It's complicated." Her response came fast. "It's always been complicated with you, too. Question is, are you going to do something about it this time, or are you going to run again?" I didn't answer, mostly because I didn't know. Lucas came back an hour later, like he'd promised. He looked calmer, more controlled. "Sorry," he said, not quite meeting my eyes. "I shouldn't have pushed." "No, you were right." I stood up, wrapping my arms around myself. "I do run. When things get scary, I run. It's what I've always done." He finally looked at me. "So, what are you going to do now?" "I don't know, but I'm here until Sunday. Can we just focus on that? On now?" He studied my face for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "Okay, but Amari, I need you to promise me something." "What?" "When you leave on Sunday, don't disappear again. Even if you decide New York is where you need to be, don't cut me out. We can figure out long distance or friendship or whatever this needs to be, but don't ghost me again." The request was so simple, so reasonable, and yet it felt monumental. "I promise," I said. He crossed the room and pulled me into his arms. I buried my face in his chest, breathing him in, trying to memorize this moment. "Come on," he said after a while. "Let's go back to the city. I'm taking you to dinner. I don't have anything to wear. We'll stop by your hotel. You can change." Dinner was at this small Italian place tucked away in a neighborhood I'd never been before. The kind of place locals knew about, but tourists never found. We sat in a corner booth, knees touching under the table, and talked about everything except the future. He told me about his company, about the nonprofit work he'd gotten into. I told him about cases I'd won, about making partner, about the apartment I loved in Brooklyn. "You happy there?" he asked, twirling pasta on his fork. I thought about it, really thought about it. Most of the time, yeah, I have good friends, work I'm proud of, but, it's lonely sometimes. New York's a big city, but it can feel really small when you don't have your person. His eyes met mine. "You had your person. You just left him in Seattle." My throat tightened. "I know." We finished dinner and walked around the neighborhood, his hand in mine. It was cold enough that I could see my breath, and Lucas kept pulling me closer, using the excuse of keeping me warm. "You remember that winter we drove up the mountains?" he asked. "And your car broke down?" I laughed. "Oh my God. We were stuck there for like 6 hours waiting for a tow truck. And you kept complaining about how cold it was. So I gave you my jacket, and then we both just huddled under it. That was a good day." "Yeah." He squeezed my hand. We ended up back at his penthouse. I told myself it was just because it was late, because my hotel was on the other side of the city, because it was easier. But the truth was, I didn't want the night to end. "Want some wine?" he asked, shrugging off his jacket. "Sure." He poured us each a glass, and we stood by the windows, looking out at the city lights. "I meant what I said earlier," he said quietly, "about not letting you disappear. I can't go through that again, Amari. You won't have to. I promise." He turned to me, setting his glass down. "Then prove it." "How?" "Stay. Not just tonight. Stay in Seattle. Stay with me." Before I could answer, his mouth was on mine, and all my careful reasons, all my logical arguments, just scattered. His hands found my waist, pulling me against him, and I grabbed onto his shirt like I was drowning. "Lucas." I breathed between kisses. "Tell me to stop." "I can't." "Good." He lifted me onto the counter, stepping between my legs, because I don't think I could. This time, I didn't stop it, didn't pull back. I let myself fall. I woke up in Lucas's bed with sunlight streaming through the windows and his arm wrapped around my waist. For a moment, I just lay there listening to him breathe, trying to memorize the feeling of being this close to him. Tomorrow, I was supposed to fly back to New York. The thought made my chest tight. Lucas stirred beside me, pulling me closer. "You're thinking too loud," he mumbled against my shoulder. What time is it?" I checked my phone on the nightstand. "Almost 9. We should get up." But he didn't move. Neither did I. We stayed like that for another 20 minutes, neither of us willing to acknowledge that our time was running out. Finally, Lucas kissed my shoulder and sat up. "Breakfast?" he asked. "Yeah." We moved around his kitchen like we'd done this 100 times before. He made coffee while I found eggs in his fridge. We worked in comfortable silence, shoulders brushing, small smiles exchanged. It felt like something I could get used to. "So," he said once we were sitting at his island with plates of scrambled eggs and toast. Tomorrow, I echoed. "Your flight's at 3, right?" "Yeah." He set his fork down. "I don't want you to go." "I know, but you're going anyway." I looked at him, really looked at him, at the man I'd loved for years, who'd waited for me even when I didn't deserve it. I have to, at least for now. I need to go back, tie up loose ends, figure things out. And then I don't know, but I meant what I said. I'm not disappearing again. He reached across the counter and laced his fingers through mine. "Long distance, if that's what it takes." "Yeah." "I hate long distance." "Me too. But I hate losing you more." He brought my hand to his lips. So we'll make it work. Something in my chest loosened. Relief, maybe, or hope. Yeah, we will. We spent the rest of the day together. Lucas canceled his meetings. I ignored emails from my boss. We drove around Seattle, hitting all our old spots. The coffee shop where we used to study. The park where we'd have lunch. The bookstore where I'd spent hours browsing while he sat in the cafe section, working on his laptop. Everything felt nostalgic and bittersweet. You think we would have ended up here anyway? I asked as we walked through the park. Even if I hadn't left? I don't know. Maybe. He kicked at a loose stone on the path. Or maybe we would have kept dancing around it forever, too scared to risk the friendship. At least we're not doing that anymore. No. Now we're just doing the long-distance thing. He stopped walking, turning to face me. For the record, I still think you should stay. Lucas. I know. You need to go back. Figure things out. I get it. He cupped my face in his hands. But when you do figure out, I'll be here. Waiting. You shouldn't have to wait. I've been waiting 4 years. What's a few more months? Tears burned behind my eyes. I don't deserve you. Yeah, you do. He kissed me, soft and sweet. You just need to start believing it. That night, my last night in Seattle, we ordered takeout and ate it on his couch while watching a movie neither of us paid attention to. I was hyper-aware of every touch, every moment. Try to stockpile memories for the lonely nights ahead. I'm scared, I admitted around midnight. Of what? That this won't work. That the distance will be too hard. That we'll end up resenting each other. He shifted, so I was looking at him. You want to know what I'm scared of? What? That you'll get back to New York and realize you don't need me. That your life there is full enough without me in it. That's not going to happen. You don't know that. Yes, I do. I took his face in my hands. Lucas, I spent 4 years trying to convince myself I didn't need you. It didn't work. Nothing worked. You're it for me. You always have been. His eyes got bright. Say that again. You're it for me. He kissed me like I was oxygen, and he'd been drowning. We ended up tangled together on his couch, and when he carried me to his bedroom, I didn't think about tomorrow, didn't think about goodbyes or flights or the 3,000 miles that would soon be between us. I just thought about him, about us, about finally letting myself have this. The next morning came too fast. Lucas drove me to the airport, his hand in mine the entire way. We didn't talk much. There wasn't much left to say. At the departure's drop-off, he put the car in park and turned to me. Call me when you land, he said. I will. And Amari? Yeah. Come back. However long it takes to sort things out in New York, come back to me. I kissed him, trying to pour 4 years of feeling into it. I will. I promise. I'm holding you to that. I got out of the car before I could change my mind. Before I could do something stupid like cancel my flight and stay. He waited until I was inside the terminal before driving away. The flight back to New York felt endless. I stared out the window, watching Seattle disappear beneath the clouds, and let myself cry. Not sad tears. Not exactly. Just overwhelming, complicated, messy emotion tears. When I landed, I had 3 texts from Lucas. Miss you already. That sounded pathetic. Don't care. Safe flight. I smiled through fresh tears and typed back. Landed safe. Miss you too. Call you tonight. Maya was waiting at my apartment with wine and Thai food. Okay, she said the moment I walked in. Tell me everything. So I did. I told her about the gala, about his penthouse, about the cabin in the confession, and the last 3 days. When I finished, she was grinning. You're going back, she said. It wasn't a question. Eventually, I need to figure out the job situation first. See if I can transfer or find something there, or you could just go. Take a leap. It's not that simple. Why not? You love him. He loves you. What else matters? I thought about that. Really thought about it. She was right. Everything else was just logistics. Details that could be figured out. The question was I brave enough to take the leap? I stood in the doorway of my new office, boxes stacked against the walls, and smiled. The view wasn't as good as my old office in New York, but overlooked Puget Sound, and on clear days, I could see the mountains. Seattle looked good on me. It had taken 3 months to make it happen. 3 months of difficult conversations with my firm in New York, networking calls in Seattle, and one very intense interview process with one of the top corporate law firms in the city. But I'd done it. Made partner here. Negotiated a salary that made even Lucas whistle when I told him. And now I was home. My phone buzzed. A text from Lucas. Dinner tonight? I'm cooking. You're always cooking. And you're always eating it. So yes or no? Yes, obviously. Good. Because I have a surprise. I smiled, shaking my head. Lucas and his surprises. I spent the rest of the day unpacking, organizing, making the space mine. Around 6, I headed to his place. Our place, technically. I'd moved in 2 weeks ago, though most of my stuff was still in boxes. When I walked in, the smell of garlic and tomatoes hit me immediately. Hey! Lucas called from the kitchen. Perfect timing. I dropped my bag and went to him, wrapping my arms around his waist from behind. Smells good. Tastes better. He turned in my arms and kissed me. How was the first day? Good. Overwhelming. But good. I'm proud of you. For what? Unpacking boxes. For taking the leap. He tucked a curl behind my ear. I know it wasn't easy leaving New York. It was the easiest decision I've ever made. And I meant it, because New York had been great, but it had never been home. Not really. Home was here. With him. We ate dinner on the balcony. The city lights starting to glow as the sun set. Lucas was quieter than usual, and I kept catching him watching me with this look on his face. What? I asked finally. Nothing. Just thinking. About? He reached across the table and took my hand. About how 4 years ago, I thought I'd lost you forever. And now you're here, living with me, building a life with me. He paused. I don't want to waste any more time. Amari. My heart started pounding. What are you saying? He stood up, pulling me with him. Then he got down on one knee. I stopped breathing. I'm saying marry me. He pulled out a small velvet box, opening it to reveal a simple, beautiful ring. I'm saying I've loved you since we were 23 years old, and I want to spend the rest of my life loving you. I'm saying yes, it's fast. And yes, maybe we should wait. But I don't want to. I want forever with you. Starting now. Tears were streaming down my face. Lucas, is that a yes? Yes. God, yes. He slid the ring on my finger and stood, pulling me into his arms. I kissed him, laughing and crying at the same time, feeling so full I thought I might burst. I love you, I said against his lips. I love you too. Always have. Always will. We stood there on the balcony, the city glowing around us, and I thought about that night at the gala, when he'd told me if I stayed, he wouldn't trust himself to go easy on me. And he'd kept his promise. He'd fought for me, for us. And now, finally, we had our forever. What would you rate this story? Drop 0 to 10 in the comments right now. If this story moved you, hit subscribe for more emotional journeys every day. And if it truly touched your heart, consider leaving a super thanks. Your support helps us create more stories like this. Every contribution, big or small, means the world. Ready for the next story? It's even more dramatic than this one. Click now. Thank you for being part of this journey.